For white Southern males who ever wore blackface, dressed as a Confederate, had his picture taken in the midst of the Confederate battle flag, or ever sung Dixie, or ever mixed with a social group that variously did all of the above, these can be somewhat threatening times. Warning, another version of Me Too is upon us. But the difference now, there are pictures of the crime, and the pictures are pretty bad. Judging you now are the people and their instant media. Your only defense is to plead your immutable racism, your gross insensitivity, or you knew better but partied anyway. That's because the People's Court knows you cannot defend the Old South, Robert E. Lee, or his horse. In the name of reconciliation, you Confederates now have to step forward and take your beating. Starting all this was Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, who tried as best he could to acceptably account for this picture taken when he was a student at Auburn University in this guilt-laden apology. Quote, "Although I have never acted to intentionally hurt anyone, I have the benefit of 40 years of hindsight to see that participating was insensitive, and I've come to regret it." Unquote. Now you may or may not say those images are on the fringe, but Democratic Governor Ralph Northam justifiably fared worst of all with his blackface image. Virginia Attorney General Mark Herring made an even deeper apology. He said, quote, "But because of our ignorance and glib attitudes, and because we did not have an appreciation for the experiences and perspectives of others, we dressed up and put on wigs and brown makeup. This was a one-time occurrence, and I accept full responsibility for my conduct. That conduct clearly shows that as a young man, I had a callous and inexcusable lack of awareness and insensitivity to the pain my behavior could inflict on others. It was really a minimization of both people of color and a minimization of a horrific history I knew well even then." Harry said he was trying to imitate the rapper Curtis Blow, but Blow didn't have much good to say about it. However, Blow, now an ecumenical minister living in Harlem, said he'd be happy to meet with Herring to find forgiveness. However, in Mississippi, the Republican and Democratic frontrunners for governor both were in fraternities associated with blackface and or Confederate Old South parties. Media gobbled up these images. The Clarion Ledger ran this picture in possible association with James Hood. There's no way to identify Hood in the picture, and he denied being in it. But somewhere in short historical memory, Democrats must now know they were great allies with people who wore costumes with malign intent to other Americans. But it was all universally traumatic, according to Representative Eric Stilwell, Democrat, California. He declared, quote, "No, you can't wear a blackface or wear a hood and lead a state. Not now and not ever," unquote. By the way, Stilwell, a Democrat long shot for the presidential nomination, had to know that way fewer past or current Republicans have appeared in a hood, unlike Democrats, such as life-term holder Robert Byrd and many others. This raises the first question I have for the activists. Why doesn't the Democrats' history of working against civil rights, as well as promoting outright violence by the Klan, merit equal outrage? In my opinion, this is cognitive dissonance in the face of facts. However uncomfortable for politicians to get exposed for past Confederate associations, this candidate was the winner, despite this flyer about him having been distributed in a black community. That begs the question, while 72% of blacks, according to one poll, see the Confederate flag as racist, would they vote against a white candidate they knew was not a racist, yet at some time posed with the flag? The answer to that goes beyond politics to businesses and organizations where Confederate posers may be employed. The movement to out politicians who socialized in fraternities not in good standing with the current PC crowd is one thing, but outing employees to get them fired is another. Such is the case with a Wake Forest University administrator. Her crime? She posed with members of the Kappa Alpha Order in 1982 in a picture that included the Confederate flag. Reportedly, in that picture also was someone who would later become a Nashville district attorney, another administrator, and a Wake Forest professor and future husband. But she in particular has been targeted in a campaign to force her to resign. We found no charges of racial bias in her work. In fact, quite the opposite. Black students were enraged, and many, if not most, could only see one thing: racism. She sent an email apology to faculty, students, and staff. She confessed in complete political synchronicity with her critics. The flag was a symbol of pain and racism then, just as it is now, and I understand that much differently in 2019 than I did in 1982. The administrator, suddenly forced into the spotlight, had brought the university national attention with her advocacy of a no-test admissions policy, which helped students not doing well in their SATs.
They have intellectual curiosity and drive and have all the tools to be successful college students, but that Saturday morning test is their nemesis.
Reportedly, Almond sent her apology email after this confab on February 21st, following the revelation of the image in which she, her husband, and another college official were pictured. The college officials at the table listened, were sympathetic, non-committal, seemed somewhat defensive, and wordy, with the university trustee suggesting a truth and reconciliation process, as if Almond had been an overseer in some kind of repressive colonialist regime. Apparently, Almond herself received an invitation to attend, but did not show up at the meeting.
How am I supposed to trust someone that is the head of integration and is going to be in one of the highest positions on this campus when I'm a current student, have experienced multiple experiences of explicit racism on this campus, and I'm a senior. I can't imagine what freshmen and first years have to go through continuing to be on this campus, on the same campus as someone, as first of all, a fraternity that still perpetuates the same kind of racism, and the people that are still
she's not the same person now. So
we don't give a damn.
What about her silence?
I don't know.
She still hasn't said
That's
anything.
why I said, what did I say first? She has to speak for herself.
Why isn't she here?
Where's she at?
No, I have no idea. I didn't send out the invitations, okay? I responded to an invitation. So, but your question is appropriate, and that's what, and exactly what I said before when I said about truth and reconciliation. If she indeed is engaged in that kind of behavior before, she has a responsibility, given her office, to deal directly with that.
But it's not just her, it's trustee members, it's her husband, it's fraternities, it's other white students on this campus. In 2014, we had a blackface incident on this campus. We can't stop acting like this is a product of the past or a product of the 80s.
I think you're right. I think this is a current problem. And that's why I think confronting it now, see, one of the things I'd like to walk away from this is how will we respond to these kind of incidents now? Will it be the cause for suspension or expulsion? See, that's where I come from with this, because these kind of things are hateful acts. And it is a crime against the community and those students who engage in these kind of
bad people.
These are bad people. In these 4 words is the issue. Because someone posed with a Confederate flag, does that make them a bad person? Obviously, I believe it doesn't. In order to say that, there has to be a pattern of badness reflective of what even they think the Confederate flag represents. Unless you think posing with the flag is, say, like a German posing. Back to this picture. I heard no subsequent public testimony about quote-unquote the accused. No lineup of students saying the administrator made it difficult to get into the school, caused the student distress, or contrived against her. Again, if anything about this person in question, the opposite. Finally, It is those things that makes me believe this whole mini-movement is like that of Mao's Cultural Revolution, when students righteously threw teachers out windows, and the French Revolution, when the guillotine, the machine, demanded an insatiable number of political victims. The ultimate tip-off, though, came when none of the panel challenged the declaration of the crowd.
This is a
We get fired, we get suspended,
Yes,
we
indeed.
lose our jobs.
Yes.
but she can do this, and she's just not.
Well, I can't answer that question. I tried to answer the question.
If anything, an apology should suffice, not an extra-legal persecution. Remember the revolutionaries in Mao's Cultural Revolution? Or this?